What is up, you guys? I am Missy Renee, and in today's video we're going to talk about failure and what to do if it appears like your manifestation has not shown up, and what to do if it appears that the opposite of what you've intended has manifested instead of what you desire. So if manifestation and conscious creation are topics that you are interested in learning more about, then definitely do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, do not forget to hit the thumbs up button. This tells the YouTube algorithm to help push this video in front of a larger audience. And this is definitely a topic that I have covered a number of times in previous videos. But nonetheless, it's important to reiterate, and it's important to keep talking about what to do in this instance, or what to do in these kinds of circumstances when it appears that things have not come to fruition in the way that you would have wanted them to. This is by and far the most common question that I get. Nearly every day, someone approaches me asking, why did this show up instead? This was my intention. This is what I desire to have happened, but it didn't happen. So why? So if this sounds like you, if this is something that you have been struggling with, something that you are interested in learning more about, then definitely stick around through the end of the video, because today we're going to talk all about what to do if you fail in manifesting your goals or your desires. We're going to talk about how to handle these situations and things that you can put into practice and make it so that you can finally manifest whatever it is that you want. So diving right into it, first off, I think it's important to talk about why this happens. Why is it that when we do everything that we're told, we apply everything that we're taught, we are dedicated and faithfully doing sats or affirmations, we do our best to meticulate a clean mental diet, and yet, sure enough, the opposite seems to unfold? Perhaps the thing that you desire, it shows up in the form of a rejection, or it shows up in the form of being out of reach. Either way, it can absolutely feel like you've been hit in the stomach, and it can leave you feeling like you have taken one step forward and many, many steps back. And I've already made a video talking about why this happens. It was actually one of the very first videos that I made. So if you want to check out the video talking more in depth about why we fail to manifest the desired outcome, I'll leave the link for that video up here, and I'll also have it down in the description box below. But in short, it boils down to one simple word: doubt. We doubt in our ability to do this. We question ourselves. We may not feel completely secure that we are in fact the operant power. Even if we believe in this, even if we believe 1000% that the law is real and that we ultimately are the ones creating, it is still easy to succumb to doubt. More specifically, this shows up in the form of what Neville referred to as double-mindedness, or going back and forth. For a lot of us, we have plenty of good days. For a lot of us, we do have many moments where we feel secure and we feel confident. We feel that desired outcome. We may have moments where we know that it's in the bag, but those moments are usually always fleeting. And we pivot back and forth between that confidence and that knowing and that insecurity and that uncertainty and that doubt. And this video is going to touch on some very important things to note. If you are new to the law, or if you have been studying and have been putting this to practice for a while, but with little to no success. Regardless, this video is going to hold some very important answers, so I definitely recommend watching through the end of the video and taking notes over what we're going to talk about here. Now, I want to make a very important note when it comes to doubt and when it comes to the disbelief or the uncertainty that we feel. Because a lot of people will say it to me, it's not working. Why is it not working? I've tried everything. I've done all the techniques. I have been stubbornly persistent. I have maintained that mental diet, but it's not working. Now, this note is incredibly important to take note and to remember, because that is always a false statement. There is never an instance where the law is not working. There is never a circumstance, there is never a moment where you are not manifesting. The law works perfectly and accurately every time, because this is something that we are always doing, regardless of if we are conscious of it or not. And for most of us, it is most definitely the latter. There are two main ingredients when it comes to conscious creation: imagination and faith. Now, there's a lot of debate in the manifestation community about faith and whether or not we need to have faith in order for what we desire to manifest. But here's where my note comes in, and this is important, guys. We are always using faith. We always have faith. With these two ingredients, they are always being used. You are doing it every day, all the time. Through your imagination and through faith, you are always creating. Consciously or not, you are always manifesting the circumstances that you encounter. We are always creating whatever it is that we hold in imagination and have faith that it is going to happen. Things that we have faith will show up for us. The issue here becomes that that faith is rooted in what we don't want. It's rooted in fear and doubt and uncertainty. Chronic and obsessive fear and doubt is just faith in what you don't want. So when I talk about doubt and I talk about double-mindedness, what I'm talking about is the focus, the direction of your mind and what you put your focus on. And through double-mindedness, we change the direction of that focus and of that faith. And the results appear as either a mixed bag or as what we ultimately don't want. So it always boils down to the two ingredients of imagination and faith. It's just that when the direction of that faith, when it wavers between what we want and what we don't want and what we're afraid of, that will result in the double-mindedness that will ultimately manifest what you do not desire. You will see the inconsistency because the focus and direction of your mind and where you have placed your faith have been inconsistent as well. So knowing and understanding a bit about faith, about doubt, and why things don't manifest in the way that we desire to see them. What do we do in the case where it doesn't show up? The answer is simple, though it may be a bit difficult to comprehend. So what do we do if it looks like we failed and that we ultimately didn't get what we want? 3 words: don't accept it. Do not accept it as final. Do not accept it as done. Do not take the unwanted 3D circumstance and say, well, why did it not work? What did I do wrong? If the 3D circumstance is opposite of what you want or it is not desired, then you are not at the end yet. So do not accept it. And this is one of the major pitfalls that many people fall into. And I know I have fallen into this trap many, many times myself. But the only time we can actually and truly fail at manifesting our desire is if we claim it to be so. If we decide that we have failed. And this happens far too often. And the truth is, we do not need to accept any failure. Even if it looks like a done deal. Even if it looks like there's no possible way that it could happen now. Even if it looks like the odds are completely against you and everything's stacked against your favor, do not accept it. And I'm going to give you guys a story from Neville to paint a clear example of what I'm talking about here. Now let me share with you a story. I've told it time and again, but after all, The same stories are told over and over again in Scripture. I was in the Army. I was 38, eligible for discharge, made my application, and within 4 hours it came back disapproved. That night I applied God's principle, His law, and this is His principle. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit yourself, your way, to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. Commit your way to the Lord, I am, Yod-He-Vav-He. Trust in Him, trust in I am, and He will act. So I went to bed. That day I saw the piece of paper, and my captain said, "I'm awfully sorry for you, Neville, but I am very happy that I have a man just like you going through this war with me." All right, so he wanted me to go through the war with him, but I didn't. I wanted to go back to New York City and live a lovely, normal life with my wife and my child. So that night, I said nothing to my captain. I applied the law. I delighted in the law of the Lord. My desire was to be in New York City, honorably discharged. That was my desire. So, I assumed that I am in New York City. To prove that I really am in New York City, I viewed the world and I saw it as I would see it were I in New York City, but just as I would see it. Not as vividly as I'm seeing this room now, but I gave it as much of the tones of reality, as much of the sensory vividness as I could possibly muster. I felt it natural as far as I'm concerned, and saw it so clearly in my mind's eye, and then I slept, in my imagination, in New York City. That very night, as I was sound asleep, as you're told, He will act. Listen to the words. Delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. Well, that night that I did this, He acted. Suddenly before my eyes came a piece of paper, just like the paper I saw that day that I had signed and it had come back disapproved, and signed by my colonel. Then a hand came out of nowhere, and the hand scratched out the word disapproved. It did not scratch out my colonel's name. It left the authority of my colonel just as it was. It simply revoked his decision, and a greater authority, which was the hand of God, wrote in approved, and wrote it in a bold, bold script above the statement disapproved. Then the voice said to me from the depths of my soul, "That which I have done, I have done." That was the statement. Now He addresses me. "Do nothing. Do nothing," He said to me. May I tell you, there are times in this world of ours when the most difficult thing in the world to do is to do nothing, and yet there are times when the only thing to do is do nothing. And so I woke with the words ringing in my mind. I saw the revision. I saw the whole thing revised. Instead of disapproved, I saw it scratched out, approved. Then the voice said, "That which I have done, I have done. Now, do nothing." 9 days later, the very colonel who disapproved my request called me in. I didn't seek him, and here he called me in, and then wrote the very word approved. And that day I was on a train for New York City. But I lived in New York City 9 days before in this way. Listen to the words. The 37th chapter of the book of Psalms, the 3rd and 4th verses. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. All your desires. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. Well, didn't He act that night? Well, who is this Lord? The Lord is I am. There is no other God in this world, but none. When you meet Him, it is yourself personified. There is only God in this world, and God is your own wonderful I amness. One day you will meet Him, the most majestic being in the world. It's yourself personified. He personifies Himself as you hear and puts Him through the paces in hope that you'll remember who projected Himself there, and that you'll believe in Him, and it will come to pass. If I had $1 for every single time something showed up in my 3D that was not at all what I wanted, I'd have a lot of money. I'd have a lot of dollars. But the key difference between success and failure when it comes to the law is whether or not you accept that outcome as final. I've had countless instances where it seemed like things were not going as planned, where it seemed like things were going awry, or when it seemed like a decision had come forth that was final, that it was the end of the line and there's no fixing this. There's no going back from this. Do not accept it. Do not accept it. Now, there are many, many stories that Neville has shared that fall on the same premise. And I implore you to go back and rewatch that segment as many times as needed. Note how, when he was initially rejected from being discharged, note how when he was disapproved to be honorably discharged, he didn't sit there and sulk. He didn't sit there and panic, wondering what he did wrong, wondering why it didn't work, why it's not working, and what does he do now? No. The only thing that he did, he rejected that. He rejected the notion that he wasn't going to get his desire. He rejected the notion that he was going to remain in the army and go to war. He did not accept it. He did not spiral. He didn't waver. In his mind, in his imagination, he lived in New York City from the time of the failed manifestation through those 9 days until his desire fully came to pass. It was already done. He was already back home in New York City in imagination. This is everything. This is everything. And this is one of the biggest areas in which we get mixed up. If something shows up that is not lined up with what we've intended, one of the first initial reactions is, well, why? Why didn't it work? Why didn't it happen? It failed. Something's wrong. I'm doing something wrong. What's going on? I don't understand. I thought I was doing everything right. This is why we say time and time again that the circumstances never matter, because nothing is final. Nothing is set in stone. The only constant in this life is change itself. Things are always moving. Things are always progressing. Things are always shifting and going to and fro and back and forth. That never changes. And when it comes to conscious creation, it is through our faith and imagination that is in constant creation. We're always consistently manifesting. There is no stopping this. There's only controlling it. There is only learning and understanding that everything is fluid. Everything is malleable like clay, and you are the potter. If you have molded something not to your liking, you can change it, but only if first you don't accept the unwanted reality. Once you do this, once we turn our attention away from what we don't want and only accept that which serves us and brings us joy, once you reject whatever it is you do not want and only focus on what you desire and what you deserve, that is how we change our outcomes and our circumstance. And that is how we manifest anything that we want. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you are interested in checking out any of my other resources, I will have links down below to my one-on-one coaching, my blog, my social channels, my courses, podcasts, all of that good stuff. Got a lot of goodies for you guys down in that description box, so don't forget to check it out. Also, do not forget to check out these videos over here. Each video is a different topic, but they all talk about how to manifest the best life possible. So until we meet again, you guys, take care, be well, and never forget how powerful you truly are. Happy manifesting, guys.